mountain known as Jabal Musa to the Bedouins who live around it. And we first saw on top of the mountain that it was charred black. The entire top of the mountain was a dark rock material. Exodus chapter 19, verse 16 through 18 tells us, "On the morning of the third day there was a thunder and lightning with a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. Then Moses led the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because the Lord descended on it in fire. The smoke billowed up from it like smoke from a furnace. The whole mountain trembled violently." We went to the top of this mountain and we found these blackened rocks. We don't know quite how they got to be black because they certainly weren't volcanic. You can see a chunk of this has been knocked off, and it's a granite-colored rock, but it is definitely black on the outside, and it is unknown as to how it got this way. And if this is the mountain of Moses, Mount Sinai, then it certainly could have been caused by the fiery furnace smoking that was on top of this mountain. Now the Bible goes on to tell us, "Moses said to the Lord, 'The people cannot come up Mount Sinai because you yourself warned us, put limits around the mountain and set it apart as holy.'" And we wondered what we'd find as boundary markers. What would be put up? So we went out into the field at the foot of the mountain, and it was unbelievable. We found right where we'd placed ourselves boundary markers, we found these rock piles about every 400 yards in a semicircle around the mountain for about almost 2 miles. And these markers, I believe, could have been the markers to keep the people away from the mountain. You can see here another pile of rocks that we have that could be the markers. And down the road we went and we found in this same semicircle arc another rock pile. Now these were old rocks. They were weathered. And we don't know how deep they went. We tried digging down, and they did continue down in the sand. But we have no idea the depth of these rock piles. But they seem to be average of about 20, 25 feet across, and maybe 5 to 10 feet high in some places. Now you can see here, this is taken at the top of the mountain. And this is very unusual to find this at the top area of a mountain because a bowl area appears right below the blackened rock areas. Now, this area here is relatively flat, and it is relatively large. It's several hundred yards in each direction. Now, this back area, you can see those rocks in the back there. There's 2 sections that have fallen out and fallen down the mountain. But when it was connected, and it obviously was at one time, it would have created this sort of a bowl effect. And Moses could have been in this bowl and have total privacy from the people down below and receive the 10 Commandments from God in this area. So it's very possible that this is the actual area where the 10 Commandments were received from God by Moses, if this is indeed the real Mount Sinai. Now, we went to the valley floor and we found this rock pile. And I should say better, it's a boulder pile, because we have these huge boulders and they were placed in such a way as to form what appears to be an altar. Now, definitely it's man-made, and definitely these boulders are quite heavy. But the children of Israel were slaves, and they were trained in the construction ways of the Egyptians, and would have probably had the techniques to be able to construct this type of altar. Now, if we go closer to this altar, we can see inscribed on the side of it this picture of what appears to be a bull. Now, the children of Israel rebelled against God. When Moses did not come down from the mountain, they said it wasn't God that brought us out of the land of Egypt. It was Apis or Hathor, the bull god. And so we find these ancient inscriptions on the side of these rocks that are of a bovine, which is not indigenous to the area. They are absolutely not in this area domestically today, nor do I know if they've ever been in the area. So why do we find inscriptions that Egyptian archaeologists have told us are definitely Egyptian in nature on the side of these rocks in this area? This is a picture of the Egyptian bull god Apis or Hathor. It was worshipped by the Egyptians as a mighty god. They even mummified these animals, placing a lot of significance in them as idols. Now, they used this in rebellion against God when Moses was up on the mountain and did not come down. and we feel that this is the bull that they were inscribing in the rocks at the side of this altar site. Now this picture is an overview of the valley down below. The reason we had to take this photo from up above like this is because you can see the fenced-in area that is around the mountain. We have this sign that says keep out, a high fence with barbed wire, and the Saudi Arabian government does not want anybody in there, and I do not quite know the reasoning behind this. If this is a great archaeological find of Hebrew significance, maybe because of the tensions in the Mideast right now, they don't want anybody to know what is going on here. But in any event, they're guarding it quite heavily. So we went to the top of the mountain and took these photos. You can see here the circle area is where we feel the golden calf is. The little X's are designating where the fence is, and the black dots there denote where we think there might be cisterns or these water storage areas. We found them to be about 18 feet across, spaced every 5 feet. And they had 3 lines of rocks around them. So they had 3 layers of rock around them. It would make them almost watertight to the sand around them. And when the waters would flood down into this area after a thunderstorm, would fill up these cisterns, and that you would have water. Now, I think it's interesting that there was the 12 tribes of Israel, and we have 12 cisterns. Could have been a rationing situation for them at the time. But in this box area you see, and with the arrow to it, you will see an altar in there. Now, this is a very interesting altar.